Saludos, Corillo. Saludos, mi gente de Puerto Rico, de Estados Unidos, de España, de donde sea. Bienvenidos a este nuevo episodio, ¿verdad? De Reloj Bomba, de las entrevistas de Reloj Bomba. Aquí tengo a mi secuaz favorito, Joel Gaitán.
Saludos, mi gente.
Un servidor, Omi Cabrera. Hoy tenemos una entrevista bien especial, ¿verdad? Tenemos una persona, un fotógrafo de los Estados Unidos que lanzó su libro, ¿verdad? Un libro que documenta toda esta escena de DC y lo sacó todo en un libro, fotografías, todo still, y va a estar en Puerto Rico, ¿verdad? Gracias también a una leyenda puertorriqueña, de la escena puertorriqueña, Suania Colón. Y nada, esto es para entrevistar un poco, conocer más a esta persona a la que vamos a presentar en breve. Pero sí, queremos hacer un disclaimer, pues vamos a estar conduciendo la entrevista en inglés, ¿verdad? Para el beneficio de todo el mundo, que nadie se sienta fuera del grupo. Y nada, vamos a trabajar cualquier cosa, cualquier persona que necesite después alguna explicación, algo que no haya entendido, bregamos, subtítulos, lo que sea, ¿ok? So, nada. So, without further ado, we're going to present to you Suania Colón and Jim Saah.
Hola, ¿cómo están?
Hola.
Hello, guys.
Hello.
Qué bueno verte. Bueno verlo.
How are you guys?
How is everyone doing?
How's everyone doing?
Very good.
Very good.
I'm
That's
super good.
Cool.
I'm so happy to see you guys.
Yeah, you too.
Likewise.
You too.
Likewise.
Missing Puerto Rico.
Yeah,
That's
Yeah.
another thing. Like,
We're all in
for
different
everyone
parts of the world.
that don't even know, yeah, like I'm in Spain. Joel is living in California, LA. Yeah,
Puerto
Suania, Puerto Rico, and
San
Jim
Juan.
Saah from Maryland, right?
Yeah.
So this is a great thing. Like, technology is making everything better.
Yeah.
Amazing.
First of
If
all,
you
I just
use it
wanted
the
to
right
say
way.
thank you so
If you
much,
use-
guys.
Yeah.
Oh no, you're welcome. This is great. We're like super happy to do this.
Awesome.
This is also a great opportunity for me, at least, to practice my English.
Yes.
But
It's very good.
Oh, thank you.
It's much better than my Spanish.
But for now, Joel is going to take over. He's going to lead the interview. But let's take this as a conversation. Suania, if you want to jump in,
Yeah.
between them. So let's just have a conversation and let's have fun. And thank you both for being here. And
Let's
start. Let's do it.
Okay.
Let's do
So
it.
Jim, just as a starter, Jim, please tell us a little bit about your background in the DC punk scene, and how you started like photographing these bands.
Sure. Well, I was in high school. I was like 16, 17 years old. And a bored teenager, and we went down to the city to see this movie that was even kind of old at the time. It was the Rocky Horror Picture Show. It was, they'd show it at midnight and people would dress up and all this stuff. So we went because, we thought it'd be interesting. But the thing I didn't know is that they played music before the movie. They had a DJ and they played punk rock music that I had never heard before at this point. They played a lot of British stuff, the Buzzcocks, the Stranglers, some New York Ramones and stuff like that. And I was just blown away by the music. And I went to my local record store and said, do you have these bands? And they said, yeah. And then they also said, there's local punk rock too, if you're interested. Like, there's bands that, play here and stuff. And they introduced me to Minor Threat. And so I immediately wanted to go to see a show. And at the same time, I was taking a photography class in high school, and I had never really been into photography prior to that. I mean, you know, we take like family snapshots and stuff, but I really wasn't into it. So I took this class, and then I loved it, and then I loved the punk rock. So I just brought these two loves together, and that's how it started.
Okay, more or less, what years was this? Like late 70s, early 80s?
Early 80s, 80, 1980, late 81, 82.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So I assume like
That is so great.
Yeah. Go ahead, Sonia. That's great.
Sorry, Joel. Yeah,
No.
I'm just gonna say that it's so great that you say that you started with movies, because me as well. Like I love Chuck Berry because of Back to the Future and so many other, you know,
the
musical
connection
groups.
with the movies and
So
films.
that's awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting, because in the book I interview people about the connection between the music and visual art and what inspires people to do what. And Jay Robbins, who was in a lot of bands, Jawbox and a bunch of others, he first discovered music through movies as well, and it was more classical. Like he was just seeing how the music made the pictures so come alive, you know, like he was. And then he started thinking about the power of music, and you know, he was already playing piano at that point, but then he picked up the guitar and stuff. So that is very interesting.
That's good.
Yeah, that's awesome.
What was the most exciting band to shoot during those early days? Can you name like top three, just to
Yeah, I think Minor Threat might be the top one, because I love them so much, and the energy and everything was really great. It was just like nothing that I ever experienced before going to live concerts, because I had just gone to big arenas, and the interaction between the audience and the performer was something completely new to me. And just the fact that I could interact, I wasn't just a spectator, I was actually participating. And I thought that was incredible. So Minor Threat was one. Void was just, I keep coming back to the word energy, but they had it. You actually felt like something was going to explode, or, you know, just combust, because they were, you know, you see old videos of them and he's just popping up and down and going nuts. So that was a great band to photograph and to see. And probably the third one, Scream was a great band to see, because they were a little groovier. They had a little reggae vibe and stuff. So it was like, you could sort of like, instead of just slam dancing, you could sort of like dance around and get your groove on and stuff a little bit. And then everything goes crazy. And, you know, when they do the more hardcore stuff. So those are probably, there's a lot of others. Those are the early days too. Fugazi a little later was definitely my most favorite band to photograph. I photographed them more than any other band.
Okay.
I'm sorry. I have a question. You started like really early, like you were 17 years old. Like, did you feel drawn, obviously by the music, but how do you can you say which was better? Like, what drawn you most, like the punk rock, or at the same time that you were doing something with photography in high school? Like, or do you felt like it was a bonus, like, oh my god, like you found out that you love punk rock, and at the same time you can take pictures at a punk rock show? How was that experience?
Yeah, exactly what you said there at the end. It was just a bonus, because I found this music that I loved, and I found this new I guess you could call it a hobby at the time, but it was, I mean, I ended up making it photography my career. I mean, that's all I've ever done my whole, adult life. I mean, other than having a few jobs in record stores when I was, young, that's all I've ever done. And I've never, and I actually made that photographing music part of my career early on, because I worked for the Washington Post for a lot of the 90s, and the stuff I shot was arts and entertainment, like clubs and bands and all that stuff. So, and then when I started getting clients, a lot of my early clients were related to the arts, like the Americans for the Arts, like a lobby group that they bring artists to Capitol Hill and lobby for arts funding, and the Grammy Foundation, the people that do the Grammy Awards and stuff like that. So I totally mixed the two, and it was just great because I love both of them so much.
Okay. Jim, going back to the previous subject, I noticed that you didn't mention the Bad Brains. I assume the Bad Brains had already left town and they were in New York by the time you.
Yeah, I was actually going to say that because I knew you were going to say that.
I'm a history.
No, and you're exactly right. By 80, they left, I think, in 81 to New York, and they did come back and play from time to time, but not that much. And for some reason, I saw HR a couple times with his other group called HR, but I didn't actually. I think I saw the Bad Brains once.
Okay.
But I have a couple photos but they're not very good. It was, I don't know if it was the venue or I was too far away or something. But that's what people, I was just a little bit late. Like there's another photographer that just had a show this weekend. He was a Washington Post photographer, but he just kind of tripped upon the Bad Brains one time because he wasn't into punk rock or anything, and it was like 1979, and he was at this place and heard music upstairs and went up there and just started photographing it, mainly because he just thought it was weird and all these kids with mohawks and stuff. And but he ended up with a lot of great photos of the Bad Brains early on. And, it's an interesting story because he didn't even really ever think twice about it again until someone found those negatives like 35 years later and stuff.
Oh, wow.
But yeah, that's one thing that everyone asks me about, but that's the one DC band that, I actually don't have photos of.
Okay. Cool. So I read that you were involved in the documentary Salad Days. Can you tell us a little bit about your involvement in that process? Like, I know the documentary filmmakers like contacted you and you posted some of your pictures and photos. Tell us about that.
Exactly. Well, I've been friends. Scott Crawford was the director of that movie, and I've been friends with him for, over 30 years. He actually called me when he was like 12 years old doing a fanzine, and he asked me if he could use my pictures in his fanzine. And I'm a little older than him, but we've known each other ever since. And when he wanted to tell that story, he felt that no one has really told that story as of that time. And so he came to me and said he wanted me to make it with him. It was a great experience. We were both new filmmakers. I mean, I had been a shooter on a lot of other people's films, but I had never shot a entire film, edited it, and produced it. So that was a first for me. And he had never written and directed a movie before, but we figured it out, and it ended up being very well received. It's won awards, and we played it all over the world, and we had sold out shows in Japan and all over the place. So yeah, Scott just came to me and we did it. A lot of my photos are in it, of course, but I actually shot the whole film as well.
Oh, so you're part of the filmmakers. Nice. Okay.
Yeah.
And then I know you're promoting this book, In My Eyes. So how was the process different? As selecting the pictures and the photography for this book, this new project that you're working.
Yeah.
Released.
Yeah, it was very difficult because I have like thousands and thousands of pictures, and I luckily about 10 years ago I got a film scanner and I just started scanning all my stuff in whenever I had time. Like, it would have made the project so much harder had I not done that already. If I had to go through and scan everything and then edit them, it would have been like a real pain. But I had all the stuff scanned in, so then it was just a matter of going through, and I did a first round of selections, and then I had my editor and the publisher go through, and then like bands like Fugazi that I just had thousands of frames of, like I narrowed it down to like 300 or something, and then I went over, and Ian Mackay is a friend of mine, and so we sat down together and we narrowed it down to, we kept narrowing it down to about like 40. I think there's maybe 40 pictures of Fugazi in there. So it was definitely a real process, and sometimes it was an interesting interaction, like sometimes, I wanted something in and he thought it didn't need to be in, and, so it was very interesting conversation, especially talking about my work, and he said some pretty amazing things, like in the interview that I did with Ian, he said that there was a lot of photographs of the band that were perfectly well representations of like what they were doing. But he said my photos looked like the way he felt on stage.
Okay.
And I thought, like, wow, like that's high praise, I mean, if your art can make someone else, feel the way they do while making their art, it's just like, and especially like playing live. I mean, he said one time before, it's the closest thing to feeling free, like, playing live music and stuff. So that was pretty great. That was pretty great.
I was thinking about that. It was something that I wanted to ask you. Like, even though you specialize in photography, like, I wanted to know your take on the difference between seeing a video, because right now with YouTube and all that, I can watch a video from Minor Threat from the 80s, etc. But when I see a picture, like, I don't know, there's something about that still moment that brings like a different type of emotion, like, how is it for you? Like, even though you specialize in photography, like, I want to know your take, like, why do you like photography more than maybe a video, or how do you see that difference?
Yeah, that's a very good question, and I totally feel the same way. Like, I've had there's something timeless about a photograph, especially a black and white photograph. It's just like I've had that experience looking at other people's photographs. Like, there was a photograph I saw of Patti Smith Group and Lenny Kaye, and like, it was in New York and everyone was sweaty, and like, I mean, there's a million examples. Like, I would just see, or like the Clash, like I'd see a black and white picture of the Clash playing, and it's just so gritty, and the audience is, like so into it. And it just makes me feel like, well, one, it makes me feel like I wish I was there. And then two, it just makes me like I watch videos of the Clash or whatever, and they can be very powerful and good too. But there's just something that bringing your own imagination to a photograph, like it just makes it more of a internal experience for you than just watching moving pictures, you know? And I think just a still photograph can be very, very powerful.
Jim, question. What were the most influential photographers back then? For example, were you influenced by Glenn Friedman, Cynthia Connolly, or maybe like photographers from other aspects like Larry Clark, Diana Arbus, etc.? Like, tell us about something about more your influences as a photographer, you know, in that subculture and counterculture world.
Right, you know? Right. Well, I did like a lot of those people you mentioned, Diana Arbus, a lot of street photographers. I liked Robert Capa, who was a war photographer.
Like French Civil War.
Yeah. And just that, you know, his photographs were, you know, he had a saying, if your photographs aren't good enough, you're not close enough. And, you know, when you're photographing war, that can be dangerous. But, you know, yeah, there was a lot of photographers that did. There's a guy called Sebastião Salgado. He did a whole series on workers, black and white photos of people like in Colombia picking coffee beans and like all this kind of stuff. I was very influenced by him. As far as rock photographers, yeah, I was I knew Glenn Friedman back then. He you know, he did a lot of hip hop and skateboarding, and all that stuff was kind of influential. There's a guy in New York named Bob Gruen.
Yes.
That he's probably
from the CBGBs and Max and Cassis.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah. He was like one of my favorites, and I got to interview him for this other movie I did about Cream magazine, and that was just such a thrill. I got to go to his studio, and you know, he's a very nice guy. He was showing me all these photos, and he's kind of unique because I got introduced to him more through his punk rock stuff, like the Ramones and the CBGB scene and Talking Heads and television and all that stuff. But then once I started looking into his stuff, like he did like that famous picture of Led Zeppelin in front of their airplane, you know, where like Robert Plant's got his shirt up, and he did that famous picture of John Lennon with the New York t-shirt on. Like, it's just like so much work. And he told me a funny story that John Lennon, he still lived in the same apartment when I went to see him. It's this weird apartment where you have to go up a certain amount of floors and then go over to another building and then go up some more. So it was like kind of complicated. And he said John Lennon came to his apartment one day and kind of got lost. And he started knocking on people's doors saying, do you know where Bob Gruen lives and stuff? And, you know, so then he got famous for the guy that, you know, in his building, the guy that John Lennon was looking for.
That's awesome.
But yeah, he's one of my favorite rock photographers for sure. And then there's Mick Rock, who just passed away recently, that, you know, did more of the 60s and 70s stuff. But I like Bob more because he kind of transcended, like he did a lot of cool stuff from like the 70s, like the, you know, the more rock bands, you know, big rock bands. But then he like discovered the punk rock stuff and really appreciated that and did a great job with that too.
Awesome. So you released this book, In My Eyes, like this year, last year. Tell us a little bit about when you released it. Have you presented it in different parts of the country or the world? And now you're going to go to Puerto Rico. Tell us a little bit about if you've been to Puerto Rico. Is this your first time? Are you looking forward to it? And all those juicy details.
Sure. The book came out late last year. It came out in October. And we've been selling it all over the country and the world. People have been ordering it from Europe and Asia and all over. It's a very big book. It's a coffee table size art book, and I wanted to, if I was going to do it, I wanted to just do it big, because I didn't know if I'd do a second book and whatnot. So it's like I got one here.
Okay.
It's like, yeah, and you see how thick it is.
Nice.
It's like 332 pages and stuff. So it's been a really great experience. I've been doing some events, like I had a photography exhibit here in DC,
Nice.
and from October through December of last year, and we did panel discussions where Ian Mackay and Alec Mackay and different people came by, and we did talks. I've done signings and in stores in different places. I have a couple more coming up in New York and next month. And then, I'm coming to Puerto Rico early next month in May 4th. And Soania had put together a nice agenda of clubs where we'll have bands and DJs, and I'll be there signing books, and also a bookstore that does art books and stuff. I have been to Puerto Rico probably 3 times before, and
Nice.
I love it. I love it there. I went once just for a vacation with my family, and then I went 2 or 3 times more for work. I did some relief work with an organization I was working with after the hurricane, the last hurricane and stuff. So, yeah, I've been there a lot. I love the people. Everyone's very friendly, and I'm definitely looking forward to going back.
Nice. Suene, do you want to tell us a little bit about the information on the show so people can,
Yeah, sure. I'm just going to say in Spanish, just so everybody that I want there is going to be there for sure. So vamos a estar mayo 5, que es jueves, es la semana que viene, la semana de arriba. Vamos a estar en el local, vamos a estar desde las 8 de la noche con Jim, vamos a estar haciendo book signing, Q&A, vamos a tener proyecciones, él va a estar hablando un poco de, ¿verdad?, de las fotos. Y creo que también vamos a tener un poquito de una exhibición con algunas selecciones de fotos adicional. Y luego de eso, pues va a estar Verdugos tocando, así que es como que book signing y super party con rock. Yo espero que todo el mundo le caiga. Entonces, el sábado 7 vamos a estar a la 1 p.m. en Ojo de Tigre, en la calle Hipódromo Santurce. Vamos a estar desde la 1, también con la misma dinámica. Vamos a tener book signing, vamos a tener Q&A. Entonces, Jorge de las Abejas va a estar haciendo un DJ set, que va a estar súper chulo también. Y entonces, ese mismo día por la noche, estamos como que back to back, así. Ese mismo día por la noche vamos a estar a las 8 en el Batey en Viejo San Juan, con la misma dinámica. Vamos a tener otro Q&A, vamos a tener book signing también, y yo voy a estar haciendo un DJ set luego de toda esa actividad, también como que para cerrar entonces los 3 eventos, ¿verdad?, que estamos teniendo. Los Q&A los va a estar liderando Carlos Lariu de DN y Ivonne Santiago de Weirdfold, Sign, así que del Sign de Weirdfold, así que yo creo que va a estar súper interesante. Son 2 personas que llevan trabajando la escena de punk rock, ¿verdad?, la escena de rock and roll en Puerto Rico por mucho tiempo. Llevan documentando tanto en video, producción de video, fotografía, publicaciones, así que creo que van a tener preguntas bien interesantes para hacer. Y también, pues, abierto al público en general, todo el mundo que quiera hacer preguntas, que quiera conocer de bandas que, ¿verdad?, Jim ha fotografiado. Creo que va a ser una dinámica bien interesante para comparar la escena, ¿verdad?, de Puerto Rico de punk rock con la escena que Jim documentó en DC.
Okay, thank you, Sonia, for the information.
Esa es toda mi información.
Yeah, so basically, Jim, she told the entire information about what's going to be happening, all the venues. Yeah,
I'll just show up,
Yeah, you just have to show up, man. You just have to show up, and that's it.
I'll go wherever she tells me to go.
Exactly. Sonia, questions. The Q&As are going to be done in Spanish or in English? The Q&As.
We're going to do them in English, yeah, but obviously
or you can translate.
Both of us are going to be there.
Yeah.
That's good to know. Cool. So
awesome.
I have a question for that Q&A. Like, I want to make mine like right now.
Okay, go ahead.
Shoot.
That's funny.
Like when you were selecting, for example, with Ian MacKaye, right? Pictures for this book. Like you saw pictures and you were like, I know like this picture was taken in this venue, but I don't remember that night at all. Like, do you like it was it your experience and Ian's like, oh, I love that picture. I know that it was in that venue, but like I don't remember that night. I don't remember like I don't remember like even taking that picture. Like, can you talk about that? What?
Yeah, that's interesting because I actually posed that question to him because I've had that experience where I remember the night because of the pictures, but I asked him, I mean, we're just looking at all these pictures of him playing all these shows, and I'm like, do you remember like what it felt like or what you were thinking or like anything about these nights? And he said a lot of his memories come from the pictures. Like it kind of pieces his memories together. So he told me, we actually talked about this and talked about it in the interview that's in the book a little bit. Like he would say that, like, you know, touring Europe or somewhere, like he wouldn't really remember a lot of the things leading up to the show or how they got there or other weird things that might have happened or whatever. Like it all kind of glosses over, but the photographs are sort of these touchstones that, you know, enables him to remember more. And I thought that was, I mean, I think that's the way for everyone. You know, he actually brought up an example where he went on this like family vacation when he was like a teenager and they drove all over the country. And there's a picture of his whole family in front of the van that they went around the country in. And when he thinks about that trip, I mean, all the places they went to and everything, he thinks about that picture, like, and that's like sort of his memory of the trip. And I think the pictures in the book do that for him and for other people. A lot of people that get it say, like, a part of my work is photographing the audience as well, because like I said at the top of the interview, like punk rock was very interactive, not like a concert in like a big arena or something. So the audience is part of it. So I wanted to photograph the artist and the audience. So a lot of people say, oh, I'm going to go home and see if I can find myself in the audience and stuff. And a lot of people did, you know, and even at my show, the exhibit, like people would come in and say, oh, that's me. And I'd be like, what happened to you, man? Because you know, like you didn't age well. No, I'm only kidding. But you know, there's people that find themselves all the time, and it's and it brings back memories for them. The photographs bring back, like, I mean, people have said very nice things about my photographs that, you know, it brings back the smell of the 930 Club and the sweat and the smell of leather, and like they just evoke all these multi-sensorial, you know, experiences, not just the visual of it, you know. So it's very nice to hear stuff like that.
Jim, I have another question. I know you have talked a little bit about your relationship with Ian MacKaye and I assume his brother too, Alec. Were you ever part of that original, like, or not original, like the straight edge kids that were coming from the DC scene? That's one. And then the other one, have you ever talked to Ian about the possibility of maybe Minor Threat reuniting, or even Fugazi? Because I know he's talked in the past that he's never gonna reunite Minor Threat or Fugazi, you know? Like, some insight on that?
Well, right.
The Puerto Rican people?
Yeah. Well, number one, I never called myself straight edge, but I didn't really drink or smoke pot like back then, just because, I mean, all my friends, a lot of my friends were doing it. I just wasn't really into it. They called me the boy who couldn't get high because I would smoke and I'd just be like, you know, it's not that great or whatever, you know. So I didn't really partake, but I wasn't like one of those straight edge people where like, you know, don't drink, and like people would go around and knock beers out of people's hands and stuff. Like, I never did that. And I actually didn't see much of that. A lot of that got maybe in other cities.
Like in Boston, probably.
Yeah. In Boston, there was they were in New York too. There was like a big straight edge scene where they got kind of militant and they shaved their heads and stuff. Like, we didn't really, people just kind of did what they want in DC. And there were bands like Black Market Baby who they were fucking drunk all the time. Like, you know, they you know, they called themselves Bent Edge because they were like, they really, you know, like to drink. And so people did their own thing pretty much. As far as a reunion of any bands, I would bet a lot of money that neither one of those bands would ever reunite. I mean, definitely not Minor Threat, because it was a band, they were teenagers at the time, and like, I just, you know, they're not the kind of people, like even Fugazi never really made the same record twice. You know, they were always pushing themselves, always trying to do something new. And they, you know, like, they've been offered a lot of money to reunite. Yeah, I mean, like Coachella or some of these festivals. I mean, crazy amounts of money, but it's just like, it's never been about the money for them. And I mean, maybe in like some scenario that just happened to be right, or some benefit or some kind of thing, it's possible a Fugazi reunion might happen. I still think it's very unlikely, and they're all in different bands now, like, and they play with each other. Like, you know, Ian is in a band with Joe, and Joe is in a band with Brendan, and you know, there's all this cross-pollination and stuff, but I just think the four of those guys playing together is like probably not going to happen.
Yeah.
But as that band, you know, maybe a different band or something, but
yeah,
you know.
Yeah, I say it because a lot of old punk bands have been reunited, I don't know, the past 2 decades or so, you know, to cash in a little bit on their old fame, you know.
Sure, but they need they need the money, like you know, like the Circle Jerks. Like, I interviewed Keith Morris, you know, at his place in LA for 2 different movies I made, and you know, he's like, I don't know, it's just, you know, he got the original kind of Black Flag together, like that band Off, or like, and he's done stuff, and I think some people, like you said, cash in. They like to play and they want to play, but they, you know, they need the money. I think some members of Fugazi, you know, would, I think Brendan made a joke one time that, you know, they were offered a lot of money to license their songs to video games and stuff. And, you know, he jokes about like, oh, you know, I could have bought a house with that or something, but, you know, Ian didn't want to, and like, and stuff. So, yeah, I don't know. It's just cashing in was, they actually, Minor Threat had a song called Cashing In where they made fun of that sort of thing. So I don't think that was ever their thing. And, you know, I mean, Ian does pretty well with his label and with, you know,
Discord.
Everything. Yeah, Discord and everything. So
that's admirable, you know, like someone that's true compromise, too true to his roots, you know, like he doesn't, you know, like he's legit, you know.
Oh, it's so legit.
Everyone else
it's
is
so
doing the other thing, you know. All of those old punks are doing the other thing, you know, like trying to, you know, get some, like you said, money, and then he's like, just, no, I'm gonna stay. Like I'm forever. Like
he's a very interesting guy. I mean, he's very smart, and he's really helped me with this book and just the way I think about it. And like, for instance, I wanted to put some pictures of the Beastie Boys in. I shot them at Madison Square Garden. And it was a pretty seminal show. And like when they returned to Madison Square Garden, and he was like, why are you putting the Beastie Boys in there? And I said, I don't know. People like the Beastie Boys. They're good shots. Like, and he's like, you should only put photos in the book that you had to take. Meaning, like, I was compelled, you know, like when I first discovered punk rock, no one was paying me to go photograph them or anything. And I just had to do it. And that Beastie Boys show, I was actually hired by the British publication NME, New Musical Express, to go photograph that show. And so he's like, okay, it was a gig then. It was a job, like, you know, and it was a very good point. Because it comes through when the photos you're compelled to make them. Like, I just had to do it, you know. There wasn't a show I wanted to miss. I couldn't miss it. I had to go. I had to photograph it. So that's really interesting. And you know, I just went to his 60th birthday party like last Saturday, and he's you know, the same guy. He wears the same clothes. Like he doesn't, you know, I mean, literally the same clothes. Like sometimes they're all got holes in them and stuff, you know. It's just like he just does his thing, you know, and you got to respect him for it.
Yeah, definitely.
Nice.
Just to wrap it up a little bit, any band that you wish you would have photographed that you didn't? Like,
oh yeah,
I don't know, like one of those your favorite bands growing up or something, or
that's a great question.
It is, yeah. I mean, well, you mentioned it earlier. I do regret not seeing Bad Brains. Everyone. I mean, I think I wasn't even sure the one show I saw. I definitely saw HR a couple times, and I think I saw them as the Bad Brains, but I don't have actually, you know, really intense memories of it. So that would have been a band that I would have. The other one that comes to mind would have been The Clash, because I really, they broke up in 83, but they toured without Mick Jones for a while. And I would have had a chance to see them without him, but I just, you know, that record that came out wasn't really any good, and I was just like, I don't want to soil my memory, like, you know, or just like see them live. So I would have liked to have seen them and photographed them with the original lineup. Okay. Yeah, those are two I can think of right off the bat.
Okay. And then I think, that's it. Sonia, do you want to repeat the information for the show, or maybe you have anything else to add?
No, maybe I haven't. I'm not gonna be in Puerto Rico to make a lot of questions, so I think I'm gonna make a last one.
Me neither.
About the book, general. Why is it like from 1982 to 1997? Like 1982, I can get it, but why like to 1997? Why not 1988 or 2000 or?
Yeah, I could have. I thought about just making it 10 years, like 82 to 92. But I had pictures of. Like, it's not all punk rock in here. Like, I wanted to show my evolution in my love of music and stuff. So I had older brothers. I have older brothers and sisters that turned me on to 60s music. Like, so I listened to the Beatles and the Stones and Jimi Hendrix and all that stuff growing up. And then I discovered my own music, which was the punk rock. And then I would hear influences, and then I would work backwards, and you know, I discovered you know, Iggy Pop, you know, like a original punk rocker, or Lou Reed, you know, and the Velvet Underground and stuff. So I have Iggy Pop in here. I have Lou Reed. I have the Talking Heads. I have bands like Wilco that I really loved, and that was like more of the later 90s. And or not Wilco, but Uncle Tupelo, the band that Jeff Tweedy was in before Wilco. I have a ton of pictures of Wilco, but they're all later. And I also wanted the book to be all on film, no digital. So the entire book was shot on film.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So there's no digital photography. And not that I have a problem with digital photography, but I thought it would juxtaposing color digital pictures with the black and white. I just thought I would keep it clean and black and white film.
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah.
Cool.
Oh, that's
So
nice.
that's why.
That's nice.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you
Okay,
so
so now I'm all done, I think. So, Juania.
Yeah, thank you so much for being here, Jim. And good luck in Puerto Rico, like with our scene and presenting your book. I wish you all the success.
I'm really looking forward to it. It's going to be a lot of fun. Hopefully my face will heal up by then. I broke my nose on Monday. That's what my eyes.
That's right. We never talk about that.
Yeah. Well, it's like weird, but
but it looks badass.
It looks badass. Yeah.
Forget about it.
Suitable for the punk rock.
I might not even. They said they could straighten my nose, but I was like, gives me character. I can make up a good story about it,
Yes, definitely.
I beat up 7 guys or something.
Awesome.
No, but thank you so much. This has been like really awesome. And
this is our first in English, so
this is our first interview in English. Like, I hope we did it right. We did well. I don't know. I think we did well. So
I think you did great. I said I was going to learn Spanish over the pandemic, but like a lot of things I said I was going to do over the pandemic. I actually could really, like, in my job, sometimes I have to edit videos that are people speaking in Spanish, and I need to have someone, I can tell a lot of words, but I have to have someone Spanish speaker there with me. So I'll learn it someday.
Yeah, it's okay. It's okay. So now we're going to have a really good Spanish speaker, Suania.
Exactly.
Tell us about the venues and the dates.
Just a reminder.
Sí, nada, lo paso de nuevo. Mayo 5, jueves mayo 5 en el local, a las 8 de la noche. Jim y Verdugo va a estar. Sábado a las 1 p.m. en Ojo de Tigre. Ahí Jim también va a estar. Y Jorge Abejas con DJ set. Y sábado por la noche nos vamos de fiesta total en el Batey en Viejo San Juan. También con Jim. Y entonces yo voy a poner el música. Así que va a estar bueno.
Nice.
1,000,000 de gracias a Bomba por hacer la entrevista.
Brutal.
Sí.
Gracias a ustedes. Thank you to both of you. Jim, for doing everything, for doing this book, from Suania for doing this, like inviting Jim to Puerto Rico. I think it's necessary. Like, people see have another perspective, right, of not just only like music, but like to have another perspective of it, like behind the lens. So
that's nice.
Thank you so much to both of you. So
thanks.
Thank you.
And I don't know.
Thank you very much.
We'll see you on the next one, okay?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Muchas gracias.
Bye. Gracias a ti, Jim. Bye.
Bye-bye.